It has often been said that when we keep complaining about people or situations in our lives that just keep staying the same and aren't changing in the ways that we want them to, that we are also refusing to change. Well, Uranus in Gemini for the next 7 years is going to have a lot to say about that. And if there's a limitation that you've been arguing for throughout the course of your life, or especially in the last 7 years, while Uranus has been in the fixed, solid earth sign of Taurus, that's like, no, let me remain in my old ways. It's not going to let you get away with that in the double-bodied, mutable air sign of Gemini. Hi, I'm Amy Rose White. I'm an integrative psychotherapist. I've been doing that for a couple decades, and I'm also a traditional Hellenistic astrologer. I love the archetypes as well and the goddess asteroids. And I make videos on self-healing tools that go along with the current astrological transits that are tangible, doable, and pretty brief. There are a couple really positive aspects to note that happened right before and right after Uranus enters into Gemini that I think really sets the stage and bakes in a sense of hope, encouragement, and really cosmic support for releasing that tendency to stick to old beliefs and patterns and behaviors, and that tendency to argue for those limitations. I think it's going to be easier to release them for those reasons. And one of those aspects is that just a day or two before Uranus's ingress into the sign of Gemini, Venus went before him. And I say him because Uranus is related to the Greek myth of Uranos, which I'm going to describe in a second. But Venus really seeks pleasure, harmony, the Greek goddess Aphrodite. She wants connection. She wants that ease, flow, and grace. Anytime I ask for something from the universe or I pray, I always ask it in the context of ease, flow, and grace. And the greatest good to all with ease, flow, and grace, because greatest good by itself is a dangerous prayer, but that's another video. So with Venus having entered Gemini, it's almost like she's welcoming Uranus across the threshold into this new 7-year transit. And just a couple days later, that same lovely Venus makes a really supportive, harmonious trine to Pluto. So the trine between Venus and Pluto, just days into the Uranus in Gemini ingress, really signifies to me a lot of support around telling ourselves the truth, around how we have been in the stories that really don't serve us anymore, that might have benefited other people. Sometimes when we're in a system, let's say a friendship or even a marriage that's humming along, but not in a very functional way, it actually benefits other people in the system to kind of keep us in the lie. And Pluto is very invested in shining a light on the spaces in our own mind where we are not honest with ourselves. So I'm really encouraged by this trine so early in the transit, and it is worth saying that even ancient astrologers noted that the very beginning and the very end of an outer planet transit, although of course they didn't know about Uranus, they looked at Jupiter and Saturn as their outer planets, really will see, a lot of it's like extra power, it's extra loud, both in the collective and in our individual lives. So having this trine, I think, spells good fortune because Pluto actually is the god of wealth and riches. And I'm not just talking about, monetary gain here, although that certainly could be part of it, particularly if what you are, you're going to see a lot of YouTube astrology on like breaking through and breaking free. And there's nothing wrong with that. That is absolutely the energy of Uranus. But Uranus is also about severing. It's a removal energy. I don't think that gets talked about enough. Uranus is part and parcel of one of the Greek creation myths, that Gaia has him on her own essentially, and then they become husband and wife, which is just par for the course in the Greek pedagogy. A lot of weird and wild stuff in there. But then he goes on to have lots of children with her, and he hides them, and she gets really angry about this, and she tries to turn the children against them and wants them to seek revenge against their father. And only one of the Titans, they had like 18 kids, and I think 12 were Titans, and only one, Kronos, the youngest, is willing to do this. So she makes him a sickle and basically waits until he comes to get in bed with her, and then Kronos castrates Uranus. And then lots of the world, more of the world, is created from Uranus's testicles, including Aphrodite, which I think is just probably where the Adam and Eve myth came from with the whole rib thing. But in any case, I digress. it's these images of severing, going from non-dual reality to dual reality, Gaia and Uranus, the two of them to the many, the testicles to the rest of the world. And so I tell that part of the story, as strange as it is, because it really speaks to the symbolism that Uranus is associated with around freedom and liberation, but not without the end, the severing, the separation, the parting from the one to the many. And that happens in our own beliefs and our behaviors, where the things in your mind, Gemini air sign, the beliefs that you've had, the ways that you communicate, maybe even what you do for a living, whether that's selling or teaching or what you do in the social media space. I know for me, Uranus is in my third house. So look at where it is in your chart, and I'll be making a quick tutorial on how to do that. But it's certainly something that's easy to find in YouTube land, to see where Uranus is going to really shake things up, liberate you in your own life. But in a general sense, all of our beliefs, thoughts, the way that we transact with each other, the way that we exchange, especially in the digital world, that is all up for change, but in a way that needs to radically shift, because Uranus is all about authenticity. One of the reasons that Uranus has the significations of being sort of rebellious and liberation and awakening and even course correction is that it is unusual in its shape and its orbit. It's egg-shaped, and instead of doing a perfect ecliptic, it kind of wobbles like this. So wherever you have Uranus in your birth chart, you're often destined to do something differently or innovatively or require change. And for that authenticity, we usually have to end an old way of being. And then we have one more really supportive transit. Whatever's in that background that we've been holding on to be set free, thanks to Uranus, is so supported by Venus. It also squares the North Node at 5 degrees and 55 minutes for all of my angel number people out there. Now, when Venus squares the North Node, it means that whatever limitation you are not really meant to keep arguing for, whatever needs to end, whatever might be severing in your world right now, whatever might be really on its way out and a new life is beginning in the Gemini part of your chart, but also just in Gemini themes in general, the ones that I was just alluding to, are fated. Like this is part of your karmic destiny. That is how, I work with the nodes. So when the transiting North Node makes a square to Venus, it really is about how well we're willing to treat ourselves and what we're no longer willing to tolerate in other people, and more about what we are going to do now. So coming back to the beginning of this video, I said, when we keep complaining about someone that refuses to change, we are also refusing to change. This is the push that is going to make a lot of us make really big moves in our lives around manifesting either the highest or the lowest octave of our destiny, what our soul is incarnated to do here. And you wouldn't be watching this channel if you weren't really interested in following the nudges and the breadcrumbs and going along with the soul's plan. Like, what else are we here to do except to learn to love ourselves and each other? And we each are meant, I believe, to do that in a really unique way. Some of us are meant to do it in partnership for a good part of our life. Some of us are meant to do it single for a really good portion of our life. Some of us are meant to do it child-free or childless or through losing children. Some of us are just meant to go through many, many catastrophic losses. That, looking at so many natal charts over the years, I really can see that, unfortunately, some souls choose a tough incarnation to unfold, their karmic destiny. But when we can work with the transits in this way, we can take bigger risks because we can feel and really allow and receive the cosmic support from these gods and their various temples. And when Uranus moves into the airy mutable temple of Gemini, we can do so much to truly free our minds. So your meditation for this entire 7-year Uranus and Gemini transit is, what old story is being kind of ripped away from me right now? Write about it, consider it, ask your dreams to bring messages to you, simply meditate in quietness by sitting on that question and see what comes up. It will change over the years, but in this initial 2-week, 3-week period, it's very likely to be strong and obvious in your psyche and consciousness. The mirror work practice for this transit is, I am willing to let go of my old story. That is a really tough one, and it's extremely powerful. When we say something like that out loud, we're giving permission to all of the parts. You can check out one of my parts work videos here if you want to understand what I'm talking about. But we let all those intrapsychic younger parts of us know that we're in charge. Our higher self is in charge. Our adult is now here to take care of all those parts. And it is actually safe to do that now. And your mantra for the transit is, I can survive the changes that I've feared. I can survive the changes that I feared. I work with so many people, and I certainly have faced this dilemma myself in my own life, that have a part of them that truly believes that is not the case. And if that weren't so prevalent, we wouldn't find ourselves in situations, addictions, habits, behaviors, relationships that are just making us smaller and smaller and dimming our light over time. We wouldn't see people we love that are smart and knowledgeable and intuitive and educated making those choices either. But the reason we typically do is because deep down we believe that. So it's time to use that Gemini energy of teaching and education to recondition ourselves around really what is true for us now. Thank you so much for subscribing, for liking, for comments. I love reading your comments. At this point, I'm still able to respond to every single one. I really, really appreciate it. Thanks so much for those of you that have hyped the video. Being a content creator newer on YouTube, at least in this iteration of my channel, it can be demoralizing. And I hear this from really large content creators too that have, 100,000 or more subscribers that, your engagement, it makes it totally worth doing. The whole point of doing this is to help more people, at least for me. So thank you from the bottom of my heart, and I will see you in the next one. Bye for now.